Hello and welcome, my name is Patry, and today I want to discuss the new user interface that has been implemented into PCSX2. The website has also seen a revamp, this will also be shown off in the video, but this video will primarily focus on the new UI and what functions it brings with it and which are not fully implemented yet. First, let's start off with an introduction of what PCSX2 actually is. PCSX2 is an open source emulator which started its development in 2002 and is now available for Windows, Linux and Mac OS. The original user interface was based on WXWidget and has now migrated to Qt thanks to Stenzek, who is also the developer of the popular emulator DuckStation. Qt is also used for said DuckStation and Dolphin. And yeah, that's all I wanted to discuss in this introduction, so let's get started and take a look around the new user interface. Let's get going. As you can see, we're on the website now, and well, the old website that is. You can see how it is getting kind of dated by today's standard, so there has been made changes to make it look a lot better in my opinion. Looks a lot sleeker, it has modern design elements and such. And the website has been up for a little bit longer than the new UI update, but I still want to show it off. There's also a theme changer, although I think that light theme kind of blinds me. But moving on. Oh, I have 2 of them, 3 of them. Oh dearie. What happened? Oh well, it doesn't matter. This is what I think most of us are used to at this point. The WXWidget version of PCSX2 with all its normal functions. But we have been treated to this beautiful Qt interface, of which I wanted to make a video. So, let's start off with the interface then. It is very reminiscent of DuckStation, as can be very easily seen here. I think it's fully developed by Stenzek, who made DuckStation. All in all, so it's kinda... It makes sense that it looks like it. So, under System, we have Start File, Start Disk, Start BIOS. So if you want to start an ELF file, you can use Start File. If you want to start Disk, I don't think that does anything for now. If I press Start File, I can open the path tester. You can also use bin, ISO and such. So I think the Start Disk is if you have a disk drive attached to your computer. Start BIOS, well, that kinda speaks for itself. And then there are options for the running PCSX2. So you can shut down a game, you can shut down without saving. Coming into that, if you start a game and you exit, it asks you to make a save state. You can pause the game, you can change disk on the fly, you can make screenshots via this menu, although I find it easier to do that another way. Settings, you can go to the interface settings, which also loads up the rest of the settings. So, to start off, language has not been implemented yet, you cannot select another language. Also brings me to a fun point where if you change theme too quickly, see if I can force it, yeah, it crashes. It does not like changing themes very fast, and as you see, it drops it to the theme that is. So let's just go back to the default for now. Oh, still crashes. That's new for me. Usually doesn't crash when you don't force this switch. Moving on to the updater, there's now an automatic updater which will check upon startup if there's a new version, and you can install it. It will do everything for you very easy. You can now point to a directory with all your ISOs, CHDs, CSOs, whatever you happen to have stored. You can scan for new games, you can make it scan recursively, so that means that it will scan folders within the folder you've selected. Handy if you have alphabetical orders sorted or something like that. You can also add excluded paths, so paths within this particular path which will not if you would not like to have scanned. BIOS speaks for itself. That's where you enter your BIOS. Then there's emulation, which it is just speed. I think the optimal frame pacing is new, or at least this version of it is new. You can enable cheats and widescreen patches, host file system enable per game settings, which is this particular setting, enable per game setting, is very nicely implemented. Because with the older UI, you had to make ini files for every game you wanted game settings for. There were ways around this with front ends and such, but it was never very well implemented. So this implementation is by far better. My apologies. In my haste to get this video out, I totally forgot to show you the actual per game settings that has been introduced. Secondly, one of the patches addressed one of the issues I had, being that the language setting now been grayed out, making it unusable without giving the ID that it should be a selectable option. So at least that issue has been fixed already, which I may congratulate the PCSX2 team on thoroughly, because, well, they're working very fast. I think today alone 6 new versions got released. But, well, you can obviously see Agassi generation or tennis generation with the SLUS code, followed by game code, followed by .ini. So it does make the inis file still, but you can configure it yourself. So, in summary, you can see the title, which is, I don't think, no, it's not changeable. Nothing here is. You can change the speeds, the optimal frame pacing. It usually just uses global settings unless you configure it otherwise. Yeah, as I said, I've already ran through these options. Most of them stay the same, so... okay, so automatic seems to default to Vulkan. Good to know. Audio, same. Interesting. I think it just uses the global setting, yeah. Okay, so don't quote me on that. It's not automatically using Vulkan, I think. Audio, same case. Network and HDD, same. So anyway, my apologies for interjecting the video like that. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the video. Thank you very much. Moving on. System, you can make the cycle rate go quicker, which is effectively overclocking the MIPS CPU that's in the PS2. You can enable MTVU, all the standard stuff that has already been there. You can compatibility patches. You can also change the actual frame rate different regions of games run on. That's a bit weird, but perhaps there's someone who can make use of that. Going on to graphics, display. Well, it chooses the renderer automatically for you. I don't know what it bases its choice off of, but I believe DirectX is the only one, yeah, that has full screen options. So if you wanna go full screen, you are locked to DirectX 11 or 12. OpenGL and Vulkan don't have full screen options or exclusive full screen. It's all borderless. Let's see. You can change the aspect ratio and the FMV aspect ratio. Since most FMVs are in 16:9, but the games are in 4:3, you can change that here so it lines up better. You can sync to host refresh rate, but this is only usable if you have a 60 Hz display, so it will speed up the game towards that refresh rate. Also, a point I wanted to make is that the tooltips are not entirely integrated yet. As you can see, if you hover over some settings, they will give you tooltips. Of course, I chose a menu where that's not the case, but I'm pretty sure you've already seen it to some degree. Yeah, here, manual hardware renderer fixes. Enabling this option gives you the ability change renderer and upscaling fixes to your games if you have enabled this. So yeah, not all tooltips are implemented yet. In rendering, you can change all the standard stuff that was already there. The OSD has also been newly integrated, so you get new notifications and indications of all these things that are quite a bit neater, I have to say. You can also change the size of it. Yeah, you can load textures, which I will also show off. It's very easy. Yeah, I think that's most of it, actually. For this bit, at least. You can go into audio, change everything there. It defaults to 100 milliseconds of audio delay or latency. I have set it to 32, which my computer can handle. If you go too low, it will get scratchy and crackling. If you go too high, you will notice a lot of lag in game. You can also manipulate the time stretch here, so that's the time stretches, how it keeps up the audio with the graphics. If one lags behind, it will stretch the audio, as to say. You can enter memory cards here. You can eject them, but there's no button to put them back in port 1. You have to drag, which is, I think, a bit of a strange choice, but yeah, that's not an issue. If you eject, there's a convert option, which is not yet implemented as of now. So you'll just have to wait on that one. You can also enable Ethernet and hard disk compatibility things. You can connect this to an Xlink Kai server if you have multiplayer games that are still active. Well, the hard disk drive speaks for itself if you want to add well, games that require the hard disk, or want to test homebrew that uses the hard disk. Otherwise, I'm not fully sure what you would use this for. Moving on, I think, yeah, you can scan for new games. You can rescan all games. Yeah, whenever I start PCSX2, as of now, it will always start by scanning a few games. I'm not entirely sure what that's about. But all my games do show up. I have one game here that has an image, which is in the PCSX2 directory. You go to, let's see, well, textures is where you drop your textures for games that have higher texture packs and such. And oh, I am a bit slow here. Not snaps. Covers, thank you. In covers there, you can drop your images. If they have an exact name, if the name is exactly the same as the file name, it'll show it here. Otherwise, you can set the cover image here. If you set the cover image through this setting, it will make a duplicate of the image with the correct name. So if you want to have a placeholder image, you can use that. Yeah, as I said, if you exit the game, let me just, if it wants to, ping. I don't think it wants to. It's hanging up. Well, that's not PCSX's fault, that's my fault. If you open a game, it will, or if you want to exit the game, it will ask you if you want to make a save state. Oh, well, this is not very nice. Can I just force it to close? That was my fault, honestly. Yeah, you can go for a grid view or a data view. Well, my games are gone for now because my network storage went offline for some reason. But if you go into game list, it'll show you a different list of how they work. On to controller implementation. You can now enable or disable SDL in its entirety. And enable specific DualShock 4 DualSense features, which are not entirely explained. It says advanced functionality for DualShock 4 DualSense, pads in Bluetooth mode, vibration, LED controls. I don't know how that applies to PCSX2, but there's that option for you. You can enable X input now. Well, you could do that with the old version, but it's a lot more intuitive now. In the right pane here, you can see the detected devices, which for me right now is the keyboard and the mouse. If you go to controller, you can now do automatic bindings. So for me, if I were to connect a controller real quick, I think it should, yeah, it's already picked it up. Oh, and it's starting to find games again. I can actually show that off then. I want a game list. Yeah, this is the other view I was talking about. You can do an automatic binding. Your controller will show up here and it will bind the keys it thinks are the appropriate keys. There are graphs here for stick. Yeah, how much you're pressing the stick, but this has not been fully implemented yet as I see it. I think it does work, yeah. So there's also these pop-up menus when I hover over it. I don't think those are supposed to be there, and if a field is a little bit too wide, you can't see all the text in it. You can also double map controls to multiple keys. So if because it says SDL left, but if I press space to it, oh, it actually didn't do both now. Interesting. Maybe that has already been fixed, or maybe I'm crazy. Doesn't matter for now. Was I done there actually? Yeah, you can also apply hotkeys to cycle between everything, and everything function has its own key. It speaks for itself for the most part. Yeah, you can view the toolbar, which I have disabled. You can lock it, you can show status bar or that off. That's the bar in the bottom that will show you if it's scanning for games and such. Let's see, you can zoom in and out of the grid view. You have tools, open data directory, which is fairly handy. Debug, you can switch renderer on the go. And that is most of it. You can drag and drop ISOs, CHDs or ELF files into the emulator to just start. You also always have to go to start file just to show you that it's working. You can test the controller here, which leads me to the next point actually. With the Qt version, they also have re-implemented Lilypad, or at least everything that has to do with controls. As you can see, there is a variable input range on my triggers, which is normal because, well, I'm using an Elite controller which actually has triggers, but the PS2 has also pressure-sensitive face buttons, and the good people from DS HID Mini, which is an application which converts or customizes the driver of the PS3 controller to send that sensitivity, the pressure sensitivity, to the PCSX2 emulator. But since Lilypad has been overhauled, this integration has not yet been fixed or resolved, so pressure sensitivity cannot be used with the Qt version as of yet. So if you want to use pressure sensitivity, you will have to go back to the WX widget version, which is still available for new updates as far as I'm aware. Yes, so what is more to consider in this case? Well, I wanted to show the upscaling. As I said, you can when you confirm shutdown, you can save state, which is very handy. Let's see if I go to... Is it already in here? Nope, it did not scan it. That is unfortunate. So I have to rescan all games, I'm afraid, for now. Yeah, that'll take a long time. You know what? Sorry about that. Had some technical issues there. because this is going to take a whole lot of reloading before it gets back to where I can put a file on there. As I said, drag and dropping obviously doesn't work, unfortunately. Can I... Yeah, it still opens with the old version, which is unfortunate. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to... With... Select another app. Oh dear. Invalid. Windows handle pass by pad. Yeah. I actually expected that. It's crashing because I have the controls figured very specifically. It doesn't like that very much. I'm just going to close out that window for now, and I'm just going to do this. So I have enabled the texture pack for Persona 4 in this one. Whenever it will load. Come on. There we go. I just wanted to show that off. Although the Persona 4 texture pack is not yet fully finished and it's mostly AI upscaled, I still think you can easily show or see the difference between the upscaled and non-upscaled version. So if I press home, I disable and enable this patch. But I'm pretty sure you can see a lot of a difference right now. And I think on video that's even harder to show, honestly. But you can now toggle between that, which is very convenient. So yeah, the search function is a bit slow and a bit iffy from time to time in my experience. So perhaps they will fix that. Also in the controller menu, you cannot test vibration as of yet. You can enable it, but you cannot test it, which is not a disaster. You can always just download pad test. Oh dear, where did it drop me in Windows? System 32. That's not very convenient. I want this. You can always just use this for the time being to configure it. So in this version of pad test, you can hold triangle and then just turn the stick for vibration. Otherwise, you can do, I believe, yeah, triangle plus D-pad to test that. So that works, but a bit in a roundabout way, as you can see. Let's see. Yeah, for future implementation, I would like to see a new audio driver. I know QB is multi-platform or cross-platform, which is very convenient, but X Audio has been outdated for a long time now. I don't think there's an actual really good cross-platform backend that has real low input latency, or output latency, I should say. But Dolphin, for example, uses Wasabi, which is very nice. That lowers the lag down, in their case, to 3.5 milliseconds versus 17.3 milliseconds on QB. So that would be nice to see. And RetroArch implementation will be easier now, I think, thanks to the Qt implementation for PCSX2. Yeah, that's actually most things I wanted to talk about. So I thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I was Petri. I hope you will be having a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!